Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative Podcast, the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions for worlds of TV, film, sports, pop culture, reality TV, music, everything really depending on the guest. We talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. You'll recognize my guests from the Real Housewives of Dallas, of Bravo, and they are actually starting their new podcast called Cam and Carrie Do Dallas. We are talking to Cameron Westcott and Carrie Brittingham. Ladies, welcome to Popternative.
Yay! Hi!
Thanks for having us.
Yes,
And Cameron, welcome back to the show. We did an interview during the lockdown, which was crazy.
Yes. That was like one of the highlights of my lockdown. It was so fun to interact with somebody.
Absolutely. So, I mean, the big question right now is whose idea was it to start a podcast? Was it a collective thing? Did someone kind of bring it up before? Like, who was kind of the genius behind this idea?
you know, we were like going out and always talking, and I keep getting Cameron, a few extra tequilas.
Yeah.
And then,
Extra tequila. She's really good at that.
I'm very good at that. So we would
She sneaks them in.
Yeah, I don't know, but so, and then Cameron is so funny, and we would be going out, and friends would be like, "You two are hilarious," because I'm so not like, I have no filter.
Yeah, we're really opposite.
Yes, and she has an extra filter.
Mm,
So it's
Extra.
like, so it's a perfect, combination.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Cam, what can people expect with this? Like, what are people going to be able to expect with this? I mean, it's you guys talking about things, but like, what can they expect with Cam and Carrie Do Dallas?
You get to actually hear more about our real life and go into more in-depth conversations where we don't really get to do that as much sometimes on the show because you only get to see a glimpse on the show. There's 6 housewives that they have to focus on. So for us, you get to only focus on 2 people. So it's fun.
So the way I like to say is like, there's so many layers of us. So you get to see only like some of the layers on TV. And this is going to be a complete different layers, talking about everything. Our exercises, our secrets, our beauty secrets, our fashion. How does her fashion, my fashion, relationships, the struggles,
And we'll talk a little bit too about what you guys do see on the show.
Mm-hmm.
How we feel about certain situations that we were in. So you'll get to hear a little bit more about that too.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, I mean, there is a new season of Real Housewives of Dallas right around the corner.
Tomorrow.
So I find it interesting because Carrie, this is going to be your second season, correct?
Yes.
And there's someone coming on the show for their first season. You were still kind of new to the Real Housewives of Dallas. What's that kind of been like coming on for a second season, kind of knowing a little bit, but not being on the show for that long, Carrie?
I am very blessed that I actually have amazing friendships on the show. And I just feel like it was a complete, like, very organic connection with most of the girls. We have formed really, good friendships. I mean, like, me and Cam call it like, it's like a little sorority, I mean, and, even though we have ups and downs with friendships, we can bicker and, I could do crazy things and Cameron may not be okay with or whatever. It's like we tell each other, and it's part of being real.
Absolutely. And Cameron, I find it very interesting too, because you've been on the show, for a good amount of time now. I mean, it's one of those things. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a lot kind of going on with this show. There's a lot to prepare for. Did you have a chance to give Carrie any kind of advice before she kind of started on the Real Housewives of Dallas in terms of what to expect?
Well, we really got to know each other a lot better when the show started. When the show started filming, we really got to know each other a lot better. We knew of each other, but we weren't ever hanging out together. So I never really gave her any advice. I think I messaged you maybe online once and just said, let me know if you ever need anything. But that was pretty much it. I mean, she dove right on in by herself.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, without kind of going into any spoilers, I mean, you mentioned a little bit, I mean, there's always a lot of craziness that happens on Real Housewives of Dallas. There's a lot of drama. Anything specific here we could be kind of looking out for in this season that's kind of maybe different than previous seasons of Real Housewives of Dallas?
I mean, I would say we had a lot of fun this season.
A lot of
We
fun.
were coming out of quarantine.
Yep.
And
we're
only
ready
with our
to
families.
party.
We were ready to let
party.
loose.
We
Yeah.
were just like, it was like, I feel like the doors opened when production got in town, and we're like, we're going outside. Like, we were so excited.
It's kind of like, you know, when you lose your virginity, you just want to go have sex with whoever you can.
No, I didn't do that. No, I didn't do that. Too much.
I think Cam, when you came on the show last time, I think we talked about this a little bit. But obviously, you know, and I find it very interesting when I asked you about the podcast, you said about your real lives. I mean, it's one of those things where it's kind of almost like you are living kind of two lives, because you're living kind of the life on the show and then your actual lives, you know what I mean? So how do you kind of balance those two? And is that type of stuff you're maybe going to kind of talk about on the podcast as well?
Yes, 100%. We're going to cover everything. Even when we're struggling over something, we're not going to filter it. We're going to be very open and honest. So you guys will love to hear that side of everything. But, you know, I really have a hard time balance everything. I really get stressed out. You know, when we're filming and when I'm being a mom and I'm running a business and dealing with social media, it's so much and it's so hard. And I just tell myself, take every day by itself and just take a day as it comes. And that's the only way I really get through it. And I just take a lot of deep breaths and like get a lot of massages.
Oh, absolutely. And Kara, it's one of those things too, you know, your second season on the show right now. I mean, people love reality TV. People love the Real Housewives of Dallas. People on social media are very dedicated and very crazy, and it's going to be crazy when it launches tomorrow. It's going to be nuts. What did you kind of notice specifically, Carrie, about kind of the fan base of the Real Housewives of Dallas? Like, were you kind of surprised at all with how like dedicated these fans were when you showed up on the show? Like, what was that kind of like for you?
You know, I mean, I didn't really know what to expect, and honestly, I loved it. I mean, I have so many people that are so supportive. I mean, of course, obviously, there's always the haters. But that's my life, you know. I've always been loved and hated, so I didn't think it was going to be different.
Absolutely. What are some things that you were hoping people get out of this season? I mean, obviously, it had to do with, you know, getting out of quarantine. You guys were having a good time. Is there anything, any kind of themes or anything kind of like specifically on this season compared to other seasons, Cameron, that kind of have to do with this season?
Let's see. Something that's different, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a lot to do like about friendships.
Yeah.
You know, like learning to really see who your real friends really are.
Yeah, I really think because we didn't have big parties, we couldn't invite other people around us when we were filming. I really think that it allowed us to get to know each other more on a personal level and really like dig deep down and get to know these girls better
and lean on each other.
Yes, and I never really got to do that. And so I think my relationships with some of the other women in the group have really strengthened because of that. We've had more quality time together.
Oh, absolutely. We did this last time we were on camera. I'm excited to do this again. We're going to do that game where I ask you a question, like who's most likely to do this or who's on their phone. You know the drill. So I'm going to ask you kind of who does the most of something, and you're going to tell me, you know, from Real Housewives of Dallas, who that answer is. So, you know, who has the best laugh in the Real Housewives of Dallas?
Carrie, for sure.
Who would you say, Carrie? Because you can't say yourself.
Yeah, probably Stephanie.
Okay. Who is the most competitive when it comes to playing, you know, board games or competitions? Like, who's the most competitive?
I would say Brandy. And Brandy's just, you know, a team player because she was a cheerleader. So I feel like she can like dive in and be like, okay, we're gonna do this, guys.
I would say probably Deandra or me. We're competitive.
So, I mean, spoiler alert, I guess there's a lot of drama in Real Housewives of Dallas. Like, it happens, you know what I mean? Who gets involved with, you know, who gets involved with drama a lot of times that's not really, like, who doesn't realize that they're getting in? Like, who kind of falls into drama the most without kind of being like, what did I do? You know what I mean? Who's kind of that person?
Deandra. She always gets herself in drama somehow.
And then finally, this is a fun one. I mean,
walking down the street and drama will come her way.
Yeah. I would say that I'm probably the same.
Yeah.
I'm always in the middle.
Yeah, I was about to say it's like the last season. Yeah, it's kind of just like me. Like, what did I
know what? I have no filter, and I just say how it is. So I'm always,
Yeah.
getting in trouble.
Absolutely. I find really interesting is, people watch Real Housewives of Dallas. Then there's a lot of, the after shows and, where there's kind of those reunion shows and those interviews where you're talking and you're dissecting everything that's kind of happened. You know what I mean? How, what do you kind of, what do you like about doing those kind of shows and the recaps? I mean, I feel like sometimes though, Cam, I've seen you, it gets kind of those get kind of intense. Sometimes those could get more intense than the actual show because you're kind of talking about everything that's transcribed, right?
Yeah, those can get really sticky. Our interviews can get very, very sticky, and you can make a lot of people mad because you're not saying it to their face, and then they later see it, and then their feelings get hurt. So I think a lot of the drama comes from that too.
Carrie, what you had the opportunity to do those kind of after party shows and interviews after your first season. What was that kind of experience for you like?
I would say that was the hardest for me.
Yeah.
Because I am very good at telling somebody how I feel to their face.
Yeah.
I'm not really good at going behind the scenes and trying to recreate something or how I was feeling because, I pretty much already let it out or I said it, when I was there. So I think that, for me, they're hard. I mean, if you are a fake person and you don't have the balls to tell somebody how you feel, then you're going to be really really liking those interviews.
I 100%. And I actually do not enjoy cast members that are really nice to your face and then they talk crap behind your back in confessionals. I just, it's totally fake. It's be real to our face so we know what you're saying because it's just, I feel like it makes them, they're just bad people when they're doing that. But I like to say things to people's face all the time. And usually if someone knows I'm mad at them, they know. There's question.
Same with me.
They know.
Yeah.
I can't be nice to someone's face and later say something mean behind their back. I just as a person, I can't do that.
I find too, there's been a lot of situations with you too, Cameron. I've seen interviews where some kind of comments or some questions you get are really kind of out of nowhere where you're literally wait, where is this coming from? I was with this person this whole time. This never was brought up. I feel that's something people crave about reality TV too. The kind of out of left field kind of drama that kind of just.
Totally agree.
Which is crazy. You guys are launching a podcast, your first podcast. Very quickly before we wrap up, what were some learning experiences for you two doing a podcast like this? Because it's going to be kind of a new experience for you. What did you kind of like about it? What was challenging? Talk about the experience creating this podcast.
Well, we're both huge talkers, and we love to talk. And I think we both learned how to take turns talking because we both love talking. And so it's funny because it's okay, I have to wait my turn. It's her turn. We're learning on taking turns and
yeah, I mean, and it's definitely so different, you're on the phone with your friend and talking all the time, and then you're having to keep it at a certain time and you want to cover so many topics. So it's also have to make sure that you don't talk enough to make anybody bored.
Yep.
But so it's kind of challenging to be make sure to try to talk about topics that 90% of the people can relate to.
right.
Oh, absolutely. No, for sure. And this is dropping next week, right? Your first episode will be dropping next week.
Wednesday, we're so excited.
And then the show comes out tomorrow. I mean, you're pretty busy right now.
We're busy. Very busy.
Absolutely. Well, Cameron, Carrie, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So they can look out for the podcast. And where can people follow you two on social media to keep up to date with everything?
Well, for our new podcast, we'll be at Cam and Carrie Do Dallas. And then our individual podcasts and our individual Instagram handles are Cameron Westcott.
And Carrie Breed at Carrie Brittingham on Instagram. Yeah.
Amazing. Shout out to Sparkle Dog Food. Leo loves the dog food that you sent him.
Oh, I love him.
He loves it, so he really loves it. Well, thank you so much, and good luck with the podcast, and good luck with the new season of Real Housewives of Dallas.
Thank you so much. So good to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Cameron and Carrie and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.